Hi, we are Quality Tourism. It's a relatively smallish company that we've grown from being part of G4S, ironically. We are an accreditation body, so we're an independent accreditation body for hospitality businesses and for tourism businesses. And what we do is we have various different types of product, but the one that's particularly relevant for the short-term accommodation industry is around safe, clean and legal, we call it. It's basically what it says on the tin. We are checking properties to check they are safe, they're legal and they're clean. It covers off a number of aspects of British law, but actually it's fundamentally what should be the key aspects of the provision within a property. So we check things like fire safety, and we check things like environmental health issues, so cleanliness sort of falls under that, as well as things like hot tubs, CO detectors, insurances, so the things that would protect a consumer when they make a visit. We also visit the property. It's relatively cost effective because it is just checking that it exists, so we are making sure that we've seen it and we know it's there, and actually it's, as I say, it's got all the health and safety bits ticked off. So we do the boring bit. I always say we do the boring bit. We also do a bit, if somebody wanted a star rating, it sits above the framework of the safe, clean and legal. So if somebody wants to be able to message and tell a potential customer what level they are, we'll give them a grading and they can do that too. The other thing we do is we accredit some of the companies and agencies that look after properties, so some of the management companies, and we check that they are doing the right things, that they are PCI compliant, so basically they're taking credit card payments and they're protecting both the owner of the property and the owner of the and the guest that's coming in. And there's some amazing practice out there. I mean, we can talk about all the bad things or the negative things around the short-term industry, but actually these guys, some of them check every single passport, and they're really religious about that, even children's. They're fanatical about making sure they have the people's details, so they stop these issues with party houses. I don't know, the last time I went to a London hotel and somebody asked me for my passport, might be because I'm British, but they make an assumption, they don't ask for that anymore. So yeah, that's what we do for the industry. We're supporting it to professionalise, I guess. Today, I mean, this was a real opportunity to say to people that our compliance, our accreditation is valid across the world. So we have contracts with customers across the world, so we do various different countries. We do the Channel Islands, we do some stuff in South Africa, but we've also got customers that operate across the world already. So it's trying to say that, look, even though legislation is different across Europe and the rest of the world, there is a best practice level, there is a common sense level that people should be providing health and safety securities for their customers. And I always say, actually, it's actually quite simple. It's not that far from what you would do at home. You wouldn't not have a CO detector if you have gas, if you've got young children. We all know what the disasters can be. Most of it is just thinking about in the context of your customer base. So yes, we're hoping to network and get the message out there, so people should be accredited. Okay, so the white paper was deliberately focused on councils and destination management organisations who talk about the Airbnb problem. And actually, the messaging is very much that it's not just an Airbnb problem. You have a problem in accommodation. There is lots of parts of the traditional industry that don't operate as well as they should be. I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen hotels with chairs stacked up against fire doors and stuff like that. So this is about everybody can do this, and everybody should be doing it. Councils stop looking at one little part and make sure that everybody is operating at a level playing field, especially in terms of health and safety. This is about consumer protection. Biggest takeaways are that most of the public think they are already subject to regulatory and compliance checks. The reality is that people aren't, and that's at every level of the industry, not just the short-term parts of it. There are some very, very good professional operators in all aspects of the industry, but there are some very poor ones too. There's a natural instinct. I guess the short-term market is often about homestays or second homes or potentially professional operators in that market. Less so the professional operators, but when people are trying to make a quick buck, and I don't mean that in a nasty way because actually you're entitled to use your space, and as long as you do what the law of the land says, then it's fine. But it's a short-term view, so they're not likely to think about the protection of the consumer. On the opposite side, there are hotels that have got a big investment in a big piece of property, and therefore they take a longer term view because they clearly have to have a going concern whether they're going to sell it in the future or live off the proceeds. It's whatever it needs to contribute to them. So that will happen, and that's just the two different markets, I guess. But I do think there are operators at the bottom end that are very callous in their view to taking care of the customer. And as an industry, I wanted to sort of give a short, sharp shock to everybody to say you need to be compliant. You have to be compliant, because if you have somebody's life in your hands, then you need to take responsibility for that. That was where we came from. And you wanted to know about how it will go forward. I think it's interesting because the short-term market and something like this is so inclusive. It's brilliant. The hospitality industry has been particularly competitive in different aspects and therefore has been really fragmented. This sort of thing brings people together, and if people can really push the pace in terms of quality, what we need, if consumers think we are accredited, think we are compliant, whether we're accredited or not, if they believe we're compliant, they start working with the professional arm, and it pushes the bottom end up, and that's what I'm hoping will happen. It's all dependent on politics. Politics of different countries. We don't know. We've got a general election in the UK. We don't know what will happen. One side of the government may put in mandatory, another side may do nothing, and that will happen all over the world. So it will be different, but I think the industry has a responsibility to try and push that onus on responsibility and protection for consumers into everybody's heads, basically. This was one angle of the information, of the research we did. So we researched and asked accommodation, people that stayed in accommodation, what their expectations were and everything else. We can interpret that in a different way to give it a positive stance. As I said, that paper was based on the council side of it. We intend to do another interpretation so that we can support the hosts and support the work of companies like the STAA, associations like the STAA, who are a body of people that are trying to make accreditation one of the mainstays of that market. So definitely we'll be interpreting that piece of that white paper slightly differently to support people, and then the other side of that is to take it to the wider industry. So there's a short-term view, and then there's the whole hospitality side of things, because it's about what consumers think. And actually, if they knew they were buying you and you weren't looking after them properly, what would they do? So it's really getting it into the mindset that this could be a value added as well as your moral responsibility, but it could help your return on investment. So we need to get that over to everybody. And then I think the next piece of research will be interesting, because we'll do it from the blockages, so it's going to be a thing. We're going to keep doing white papers so we can keep stimulating the industry to do the right thing.